Kaelin's hands shook as she shaped molten glass in her cramped attic. Outside, the sky looked sicker than ever. The opal clouds that once shimmered beneath Aurith's floating city were now streaked with viscous black veins. The city's Heartfire, which powered the floating isles, was flickering like a dying candle. But no one in the upper wards would listen to a 17-year-old apprentice glassmaker. Not yet. A storm slammed against the windows. Kaelin jerked as her polished orb clattered to the floor, rolling beneath a workbench. She groaned, ducking to retrieve it, and her fingers grazed something cold and unfamiliar. As she pulled it free, dust motes swirled around a strange silvery artifact, humming with faint blue light. Intricate runes began to glow and swirl, spelling words she felt rather than read. Summon the Guardians. Below, the city bells clamored, a warning. She sprinted to the window, just in time to see the Heartfire splutter violently, raining sparks toward the abyss. Kaelin's neighbor, old Mistress Vey, banged on the door. "The blight is spreading to the lower markets," she hollered. "Run to the shelter." Instead, Kaelin grabbed her artifact and dashed into the empty streets. The artifact pulsed warmly, drawing her toward the ancient library, a crumbling spire forbidden since the last guardian vanished. There, behind columns dusted with forgotten glyphs, Kaelin met Laren, the city's most wanted historian, his cloak patched and eyes sharp with secrets. "You have something rare," Laren whispered, eyes glued to the artifact. "That's guardian work, more precious than gold. The city council would want you silenced." Kaelin straightened. "I want answers, not gold." Laren grinned, but his gaze shifted nervously as another tremor rattled the floor. "Then you'll need more than me. Magic's dying, and Aurith's time may be even shorter than they fear. If we're to relight the Heartfire, first we must find the Guardians." "Summon the Guardians? That's impossible." A sudden rustle jarred them. A small red fox, blindingly quick, darted from the shadows. It paused, blue eyes cutting through the gloom. "Nothing's impossible if you can hear the storm's true name, girl." Kaelin took a staggered breath. She'd stumbled into a quest she never wanted, and the city she loved depended on its success. The last ember of Aurith flickered within her palm, and the journey to save the skies had just begun. Rain streaked down the library's shattered dome as Kaelin clutched the artifact, heart hammering. Laren dropped to a knee beside the talking fox, staring in disbelief. Did that fox just talk?" "Yes, and I bite too," the fox snapped, curling its bushy tail. "Name's Tivil. I know this place better than your council ever will. Kaelin, you must hurry. The Heartfire's echo is weakening." Kaelin glanced at Laren, wide-eyed. "Do we trust him?" Laren shrugged. "A fox that talks is as good as any guide." "Where to, Tivil?" The fox danced around their feet, pausing at a mosaic half hidden by mildew. 6 figures, luminous even through the grime, reached skyward. A mural of the Guardians Kaelin vaguely remembered from bedtime stories. Tivil pressed a paw to the glassmaker's artifact. It flared bright, and runes spiraled outward to merge with the mosaic. The air vibrated, and stone cracked open to reveal a hidden staircase winding down. "Follow if you care to save your city," Tivil called, darting ahead. The others hesitated only seconds before plunging after him. The stairwell led into gloom, broken only by the artifact's faint shimmer. Stone grew damp underfoot until it opened into a colossal chamber lined with weathered statues, each bearing the emblem of a guardian. Laren ran a hand along the nearest statue, lips moving in awe. "Irian, guardian of storm. I never thought I'd see this in my lifetime." Kaelin's gaze drifted to an empty pedestal, a 7th slot. Her artifact pulled her forward. She pressed it into the hollow, and the entire room trembled as a beam of blue fire blasted upward, illuminating ancient runes high on the walls. Sudden footsteps echoed behind them. Kaelin spun, fists balled, as a figure plunged from the shadows, a young man, battered armor cracking with every breath. Golden hair caked with rain stuck to his forehead, and desperation flashed in his eyes. He dropped to one knee. "My name is Eldrick. I am the son of the banished king. I will do anything to save Aurith. Let me help." Laren stepped back, suspicious. "You're wanted for treason. How do we know you're not here to finish the blight?" Eldrick raised his hands. "Because like you, I want to live, and I know where to find the first guardian." Tivil leapt to Kaelin's shoulder, tail bristling. "Choose quickly. The abyss is already hungry." Kaelin stared at Eldrick, seeing both desperation and hope reflected in his eyes. The Guardian's chamber hummed around them. Suspense twisted in her stomach. If he was lying, she'd regret it, but without trust, they'd surely fail. She nodded. We're all outcasts now. Lead the way. Eldrick grinned, a wild, uncertain smile, and the group pressed forward into the dark, hearts pounding as the last ember burned hotter in Kaelin's palm. A low, menacing howl curled up the stone steps as the team hurried from the Guardian's vault. Kaelin gripped the artifact, knuckles white. The tunnels had an uneasy chill, shadows shifting with every flicker of blue from the silvery relic at her neck. Behind her, Eldrick's battered boots kept an anxious rhythm. Tivil trotted ahead, nose twitching. "Where are we headed?" Laren whispered, watching the darkness ahead. Eldrick brushed damp hair from his brow. "There's a forgotten sky bridge. The only way out if the blights reach the city core. The first Guardian's spirit, Nilo, resides over the Shrouded Veil. We'll need every trick to get past the wardens." Tyvil's ears pricked. "Wardens? I hate those stuttering scarecrows. Keep your heads down." Before Kaelin could ask, the ground shuddered. A crack split the tunnel wall, and a swirling, smoky figure coalesced, its form patchy and blinking like a broken lantern. It lunged, and Kaelin barely dodged the sweep of its claw. Laren spun her out of the way. "Blight Wraith! They're getting bolder. Keep moving." The four darted deeper. The artifact's glow left a searing streak in the air as Kaelin thrust it forward, chanting words she didn't know she remembered. The wraith recoiled, shrieking at the blue light. Eldrick hacked with his sword, the blade passing harmlessly through its smoky ribs. Tivil yipped, leaping at Kaelin's feet. "Channel your hope, child. Let the ember shine." Kaelin's heart leapt with fear and shame. What if she failed? She squeezed the artifact. A spark broke loose, swelling brighter than the gloom, and launched through the wraith's chest. It dissolved into ash, leaving silence echoing in its wake. Eldrick stared. "How did you do that?" Kaelin shook her head, voice tight. "I don't know. I just wanted it gone." Laren gave a lopsided grin. "Want is as strong as wisdom. That's enough for now." Ahead, the tunnel opened to dizzying heights. Far below, fractured clouds boiled. Stone arches leapt through the air, forming a memory of a bridge, crumbling barely whole. Tivil padded ahead. "Hold tight, don't look down." Hand in trembling hand, the group crossed. Kaelin forced her eyes upward. At the far end, a towering door of polished jet, its runes pulsing in rhythm with her relic. Through it, a faint green aurora beckoned. The Shrouded Veil, where Guardian Nilo waited. The door shifted open, shadows wriggling beneath the arch. Laren gripped Kaelin's shoulder, voice low. "We're out of the city now. From here on, hope is the only path left." And with the abyss howling below, they stepped through the door, toward their first Guardian, and the beginnings of change. A chill gripped Kaelin as the door slammed shut behind them, sealing off the battered skybridge. The Shrouded Veil was nothing like the city. Here, thick mists wreathed gnarled trees that stretched over deep, bottomless voids. Verdant tangles glowed with an eerie inner light. Somewhere within, the faint pulse of magic beckoned. Tivil sniffed the air, voice hushed. "Eyes up. The Guardian's lair is ahead, but the veil is never empty." Laren brushed dew from a mossy rune. "Legends say the veil's alive, fickle. If we show fear, it'll swallow us whole." Eldrick flashed a wry smile. "Sounds inviting. After you, Kaelin." Stepping forward, Kaelin felt the artifact react, a gentle tug like a forgotten melody, pulling her deeper. As they moved, shapes flickered in the mist, phantoms of past travelers, lost souls seeking the Heartfire's warmth. Shadows seemed to press in, whispering doubts to her ears. "You're only a glassmaker. Go back. You'll fail them all." Kaelin's jaw tightened. She gripped the artifact, breathing slow and steady. "I'm not alone, not anymore." Suddenly a form erupted from the trees, a spectral cougar, breath swirling with tiny motes of light. It snarled, blocking the path. Laughing, Tivil dodged and barked, "That's Nilo's sentinel. Show it you're worthy." Eldrick lunged, sword raised, but Laren pulled him back. "Violence won't break its trust. Kaelin, the artifact!" Mind racing, Kaelin held the relic high. The cougar prowled closer, glowing eyes fixed on her. Heart pounding, Kaelin knelt, holding out the artifact without fear. "I seek hope," she whispered. "Not for myself alone, but for all Aurith." The cougar sniffed her hand, tail lashing once. Then it bowed, glowing softly. Mist parted. They entered a luminous glade, at the heart of which floated Nilo, the first Guardian, shimmering with leaf and thunder. Ancient eyes met Kaelin's. Nilo spoke, voice like wind in high branches. "You seek renewal. But unity is shattered. Trust and light must be restored, not just to the Heartfire, but to your broken hearts. Kaelin shivered, but squared her shoulders. Will you join us? Nylo hesitated, gaze drifting to Eldrick. Even among you, secrets poison the way. Face the truth, or fall as all have fallen. For a moment, no one breathed. Then Tivil made a small, knowing grin. The first test begins, friends, and Nylo never makes it easy. As the Guardian's mist rose, Kaelin realized the cost would be more than bravery. Could she trust her companions and herself, or would Aurith slip forever into shadow? The glade darkened, the trial forming before them, poised on the knife's edge of hope. The glade shimmered as Nylo's mist thickened, swirling into a labyrinth of illusions. The boundary between memory and reality broke apart. Each of Kaelin's companions faded to shimmering ghosts beside her, their voices hollow. Kaelin faced the labyrinth's entryway, its branches twisted and paths warped by doubt. Nylo's disembodied voice lingered, stately but sorrowful. This is the test of truth, glassmaker. Only by shedding deception will the path open. Kaelin called out, Laren, Eldrick, Tavel. But their voices answered from distant echoes, each trapped in illusions of their own regrets. The artifact pulsed, warm yet heavy. You must go first, it seemed to urge. Swallowing fear, Kaelin stepped into the first winding corridor. Vignettes flickered around her. Her parents begging her to return to safety, crowds chastising her ambition, the memory of her own hands trembling over cracked glass and false starts. You're small, Kaelin, her mother's echo rang. Let others save the city. Kaelin shuddered, closing her eyes. No, I choose to try, even if I fail. The illusion shattered. She stumbled into another clearing. Laren, bound in shadow, struggling against invisible chains. I broke my oaths, Laren gasped. My lies keep us safe, Kaelin. I can't let the truth destroy them. Kaelin stepped forward. You don't have to lie now. We need your truth, Laren, all of it. The shadow chains softened and broke. Laren's projection faded, calling out, You can do this! Kaelin pushed forward. The next illusion was colder. Eldrick on his knees beneath a storm-wracked throne. His banished father's face loomed. You are unworthy. You failed your kingdom and your friends. Kaelin knelt beside him. You can still make things right. Being cast out doesn't mean you stop fighting. We need you. Eldrick's image looked up, fierce and raw. The storm eased, and he too vanished. At the labyrinth's center, Tivil waited, caught between his fox and human voice, confused, lost. I don't remember who I was before the storm. Who can trust something so broken? Kaelin simply placed her hand on his fur. You're one of us. We trust you now. A rush of wind tore the mists apart. The illusion collapsed, dumping Kaelin back in the clearing with her three companions, real and whole, each trembling but stronger, truths laid bare. Nylo hovered, his spirit solidifying, a proud smile piercing the gloom. You see one another now. Only a united fire can reignite hope. I will give you my ember. A glowing seed floated into Kaelin's palm, warm as a summer dawn. The first ember was theirs. But above, thunder shuddered as forces greater than the Guardians stirred in the looming storm. Kaelin looked from her friends to the horizon, knowing the hardest quests and deepest secrets still lay ahead. The aurora above the shrouded veil twisted and stretched as Kaelin pressed Nylo's ember into her artifact. Tendrils of green and blue raced through the glass, and the air shimmered with power revived. But beneath the beauty, new urgency pulsed. The Heartfire was still dangerously weak, and the next Guardian must be found. Tivil's ears flicked. North, the sky reefs. If we hurry, we'll reach Ira's domain before the blight spreads. Eldrick took the lead this time, hacking a path through the dew-soaked foliage that spilled off into endless clouds. Kaelin clutched the artifact close, each step heavier as doubts and exhaustion threatened to return. Do you think Ira will help us as Nylo did? Kaelin asked, quietly hopeful. Laren shook his head. Ira was always restless. Rumor says she vanished after the last storm war. She may not even remember us, or want to. A distant rumble interrupted them. The land ended abruptly, replaced by floating isles lashed together by swaying rope bridges, arching impossibly far into the sky. Between the isles drifted tendrils of poisonous mist, the blight growing bolder by the hour. They pushed onward, winds shrieking and the bridges groaning beneath their feet. Above, a flock of glass birds darted from cloud to cloud. The largest folded its wings and plummeted, landing before them. It shimmered and twisted, reforming into a young woman with feathers braided in her pale hair. Ira, guardian of the winds. You've come to beg, she said coolly, her breathtaking silver eyes fixed on Kaelin. Why shouldn't we let Aurith fall to spare it the slow death above? Laren stepped forward. Because the blight will consume more than Aurith. It'll poison even your skies, Ira. Help us, and we all survive. Ira's feathers bristled, but she hesitated. Kaelin met her gaze, voice trembling. Please, we need to believe there's more in this world than despair. Thunder boomed, and a new opponent arrived, a masked figure in Reaver armor, wielding swirling darkness. Hope is for fools, the Reaver hissed. The blight serves a purpose, to cleanse what's grown weak. Eldrick surged forward, sword drawn. Tivil circled, growling as shadows swarmed the bridge. A battle erupted. Blightlings lunged through the mist, clawing at the ropes. Kaelin, gripping the artifact, channeled Nilo's ember. Blue-green winds surged out, repulsing the shadows and striking the Reaver back. Ira watched, eyes widening as Kaelin's courage shattered the gloom. When the last Blightling faded, Ira stepped back. Maybe hope isn't foolish after all. I'll lend you my wind, so long as you do not falter, glassmaker. Her hand closed over Kaelin's, and a crystal feather merged into the artifact, swirling with stormlight. The second ember blazed. The bridges steadied, the way forward cleared, but Kaelin glimpsed a dark city far below, swathed in blight, pulsing with unnatural energy. Laren breathed. The next guardian waits beneath the clouds, where the forgotten live. With 2 embers and new resolve, they stared downward, toward secrets unspoken and dangers greater than any storm yet faced. Downward they descended, leaving sky and wind for a dizzying drop through churning clouds. Kaelin locked her gaze on the artifact, now swirling with Nilo's green seed and Ira's silver feather. The air tasted thick, heavy with secrets too long buried. The floating isles melted away overhead, replaced by a vast undercity threaded through the roots of Aurith, timber, iron, and ancient machinery entwined with vines. Here, blight pooled darkest, twisting the once beautiful understructure into a maze of shadows and pale, sunless folk. No one from up there comes down here willingly, Laren muttered as grim-faced exiles eyed their group. This place runs on silence and old debts. A child darted up, eyes milky white with blight. She pressed a hand to Kaelin's arm. You've brought the Heartfire's hope, haven't you? Kaelin froze as her artifact pulsed softly. We've come to find the third guardian. Do you know where? The girl's voice hollowed. Deep below in Sable Hall. She pointed to an arched shaft. But you'll have to face the forgotten, those who lost themselves to the blight. Tivil's fur bristled. We can't fight shadows and lies alone. All must stand together. Reluctantly, exiles drifted from the gloom, drawn by Kaelin's growing light. Eldrick offered a hand to a weary miner. Laren mended broken pipes with whispered runes, and Tivil, flashing sparks from his tail, led the children in dances that painted fire against the gloom. As Kaelin's artifact brightened, fear slowly eased from the crowd. The deeper they went, the more the blight recoiled. In the heart of Sable Hall, they found the third guardian, Sable, formed of onyx and shadow, eyes swirling with ancient sorrow. You wish to reclaim what was lost? Sable asked, voice rippling between hope and despair. The Heartfire was fractured by pride. Selfishness still festers. Kaelin looked at her ragtag group, then the crowd. Maybe, she replied. But we're healing. Give us a piece of your strength. Let us mend what we've broken. Around her, exiles murmured, hands joined, miners, children, elders, each adding their yearning to Kaelin's plea. Sable hesitated, then lowered her head. You unite what others would discard. You carry all our broken hopes. A shard of onyx floated from Sable, merging with the artifact. Light flared, casting shadow and fire together. The third ember, pulsing with unity hard won. But beneath the cheers, a sinister echo dragged Kaelin's spirit. The masked Reaver had come too, sowing discord, twisting hope with whispered threats. And deeper still, beyond all cities, the blight's heart waited, hungry and watchful. The next guardian hides in the ruins below, Laren warned, eyeing the artifact's trembling light. That is where legends and the truth will break or save us. A hush hung over Sable Hall as Kaelin's artifact, now humming with 3 embers, pointed relentlessly to the depths below. Blight retreated from her path, but the weight of dread pressed heavier with each step underground. Tivil was quiet, his tail low, and even Eldrick's sword hand shook. If this is where legends end, Laren murmured, there may be no coming back. The path grew tighter, the stone colder. Old murals lined the walls, showing Aurith when it stood whole, before pride and greed fractured the Heartfire and banished the Guardians. Kaelin stared, feeling the legacy of failure heavy in her chest. Their group pressed on, flanked by a handful of the bravest exiles. The darkness grew absolute. Only the artifact's blue-green glow lit their way. At last they reached a vast cavern, domed with ancient crystal. A pool of obsidian water reflected their faces, haunted and hopeful. A shape emerged, tall, draped in moonlight, its presence more serene than sorrowful. This was Luris, guardian of memory and the deep. Her voice echoed like silver bells. "You who bear the embers, why do you descend?" Kaelin answered, voice stronger now. "To bind the fires, to heal what was broken. Not just the Heartfire, but us as well." Luris circled the group, pausing at each. "Memory is more than what's remembered. It is the courage to face pain, to forgive, to let go. Each of you must leave behind the weight that grounds you, or be swept away." Visions flared. Kaelin saw her parents' disappointment again. Laren flinched before faces of old friends betrayed. Eldrick wept at memories of exile and loss. Tivil, silent, glanced down at his own reflection, seeking the face before he was a fox. One by one they spoke, fears, regrets, the shame that clung to their souls. Each confession shed a shadow. Each truth spoken forced the darkness back. The pool's obsidian surface shimmered, and Luris smiled, a tear sliding down her cheek. "You carry your past, but are not chained to it. This is the Ember of Memory." A moonlit pearl lifted into Kaelin's hand. The artifact blazed as all 4 embers spun in harmony, the Heartfire's pattern almost complete. But suddenly the pool boiled and the masked reaver burst from below, wielding a blade of pure blight. With every step, the Guardian's light faltered, and hopelessness swept in like a tide. The reaver's mask cracked, revealing the bruised, familiar face of a lost friend from Kaelin's childhood, the one she'd believed had died when the first blight struck. "Why did you leave me?" he hissed, voice threaded with pain and rage. "Why do you deserve another chance when I was forgotten?" Kaelin's world spun as friend and foe blurred. To save Aurith, she would finally have to face what she had abandoned, and forgive the broken heart staring back at her. The pool of memory churned, the fate of Aurith teetering on the choice she'd make next. The crystal dome trembled as Kaelin faced the reaver, her childhood friend, Corin, alive but warped by suffering, his eyes blazing with blight. Instinct screamed for her to fight or flee, but guilt froze her in place. The artifact pulsed wildly in her fists, the 4 embers roiling as if uncertain. Laren stepped between them, voice tight. "Kaelin, if you break, the blight wins." Eldrick circled, blade drawn yet hesitating. Tivil's hackles rose, but he looked not at Corin, but straight at Kaelin. "You must choose, old wounds or a new hope." Corin's mask fell. His pain was raw, laced with longing. "I waited so long for someone to care, Kaelin. Why was I the one left in the dark?" Beneath the Guardian's silvery gaze, Kaelin's vision blurred, not just with fear, but with fierce resolve. She took a trembling step forward, laying aside the artifact. "I was afraid when the blight took you. I thought if I pretended you were gone, I'd never feel that pain again. Spinning glass was easier than facing what I'd lost. But I never stopped missing you, Corin. I'm sorry." Her voice echoed through the ruins. Silence settled, then Corin's blade clattered to the stone. His blighted form wavered, caught between anger and longing. I don't know who I am anymore." Kaelin held out her hand. "Then let's find out together." Time seemed to slow. The artifact slipped from her palm and rolled across the floor to Corin, its 4 fires flickering uncertainly. He bent over it. Where blight touched, it hissed and smoked, but Kaelin didn't flinch. "Let the last ember be not a weapon of vengeance," Kaelin whispered, "but an ember of forgiveness." Guardian Luris bowed low, her moon-shaped memory pearl radiant. "What was lost can return, if you can bear to welcome it." Corin sobbed, grief and fury draining from his face. The blight receded, leaving behind a scarred but human boy, fragile as glass. When Kaelin embraced him, the artifact blazed so furiously that cracks lanced through the crystal dome overhead, raining shards of light. Momentarily, all of Aurith shuddered, from the golden heights to the shadowy undercity. People everywhere felt the pulse of something shifting, hesitant yet hopeful, a sign that the Heartfire's last ember had been found. But as the chamber's echoes faded and the embers swirled brighter than ever, the storm above finally broke. From the rift, a monstrous shadow slipped through, larger than any reaver, a horror conjured by centuries of regret and betrayal. With a sound like all Aurith wailing, it began to unmake the land itself. Laren's voice rang out, wild with new purpose. "If that thing reaches the Heartfire, all will fall." Kaelin nodded, the artifact warming in her hand, whole at last, yet untested. She whispered to her friends, old and new, "We face the end together." As they ascended, the city's fate burning in their hearts, the final battle for Aurith unfolded ahead. A last stand not just for magic, but for everything worth forgiving, healing, and saving. Wind howled through the ruptured city as Kaelin and her companions climbed toward the Heartfire's ancient spire, the floating kingdom shuddering, torn by the world-ending shadow that poured from the rift. The Heartfire's once magnificent sphere, now little more than a guttering wisp, hovered above the chaos. Aurith's people, exiles and nobles, glassmakers and foxes, all rushed for cover, some praying and others staring in stunned silence at the end rushing in. Eldrick limped beside Kaelin, his resolve new forged. Laren cradled ancient scrolls, lips whispering incantations. Tyval, half-shadowed and half-fire, snapped orders to frightened children and bold rebels alike, no longer hiding, but leading. Corin stood shaky but determined, his fingers trailing hopeful blue sparks. The monstrous shadow loomed. In its vastness were every regret, betrayal, and secret Aurith carried. Tendrils lashed out, snuffing lanterns, cracking bridges, drawing Heartfire's flame inward. Kaelin pressed forward, artifact warm with all 5 embers spinning, Nilo's green hope, Ira's silver courage, Sable's unity, Luris's memory, and the lavender ember of forgiveness. The Guardians themselves, now luminous echoes above the city, joined hands to form a bridge of fire and mist for the heroes to cross. Midway, the Shadow's voice thundered, cold and ancient. "Hope cannot save what is already lost. Your world ends here." Laren called back, "That's where you're wrong. Our failings make us strong because we choose to rise." Kaelin advanced, fear tightening her chest. The artifact throbbed in her palm, answering to her determination and the courage of everyone behind her. She met the beast's gaze and did not look away. "We are not perfect," Kaelin shouted, heart raw, "but we are more than our failings. We choose each other, even when it hurts. That's what makes this fire last." She plunged the artifact into the dying Heartfire. A surge of truth erupted, blinding color, crackling heat, the voices of 1,000 reconciled souls. The embers fused and blossomed, burning away the shadow with every memory embraced, every hope renewed, every forgiven grudge. The Heartfire exploded upward in a corona of dancing light, threading through every layer of Aurith. People below wept, lifted in a dawn bright as promise. The shadow wailed, shrinking as it broke apart, swept up and scattered into the wind. The rift sealed with a sound like thunder reversed, and the floating isles steadied, gleaming. Kaelin collapsed, the artifact smoking in her hand. Guardians knelt before her, their forms fading into gentle stardust. "You remade the fire not by force," Nilo's whisper lingered, "but by hope, unity, and courage." Eldrick hugged Kaelin, Laren and Tyval flanking their circle. Old wounds ached, but smiles broke through tears. Corin knelt, finding forgiveness in the light, freed at last. The city began anew. People built together, no longer split by class or fear. Aurith's skies glimmered blue-gold, vibrant above and below. Stories of Kaelin, the glassmaker who mended what seemed forever lost, echoed in every dawn. The last ember of Aurith burned on, not as a relic, but as the warmth of hearts learning to heal, forgive, and start again.